Welcome to How Adoption Works. I'm Joseph Sandagato, Director of Communications and Public Relations for MARE. How Adoption Works are shorter episodes including frequently asked questions and topics that we don't cover on the main AdoptED podcast. This is supposed to be quick, so without further ado, I'd like to start the show. I'm welcoming Rebecca Raposa, Child Services Coordinator for MARE for the Southern Region. Welcome, Rebecca. This is your first time on the podcast. Thanks for agreeing to join me.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to join today.
So, Rebecca, our topic today is the matching process. We're talking about in a variety of different ways on how adoption works, everything from the application process right up through matching. So this is, kind of the culmination of that piece of the process, right, the matching process. And we're really talking about the last sort of official step in the pre-adoption process here. So although I know that your team spends a lot of time with families even before getting to this step sometimes, we're really talking about this stage where people are pretty eager to get to it. I know from being at events and being out in public, like this is the place people want to be, right? So is that pretty fair to say?
I definitely think that families are most eager for the matching process.
I agree. And when I used to teach MAP class, MAP class, which we will have talked about, in the episode prior to this, really is a place where people get supercharged, but there's still so much to do as they learned in our last podcast about this topic. So let's get down to brass tacks, because this is a quick kind of, fast paced. Let's just get the topic out there and let's tell them what they need to know. Let's talk about the matching process. So we talked about the things briefly in our opening here about the things that happened before, right? So people may have had exposure to our website. They may have been to one of our events.
Yep.
But at this point they are post home study. Right?
Right.
And so let's talk a little bit about, from your perspective, so you are a child service coordinator. Tell everyone, just in case this is the first time they've listened to us, tell them what your role is within the organization and how you work through the matching process.
Yes. So families really love our website because it gives them the opportunity to inquire about children instead of, maybe waiting to hear from their social worker about potential matches. So what I do is I receive inquiries on kiddos from the southern region of our state. And when a licensed family inquires about them, because we write such strength-based profiles, It's my responsibility to really share more about the kiddo's needs. And, that can be their emotional needs, if they have an IEP, if they have any physical needs, just different things that families can really learn about and say, could I parent this child? Would my strengths really line up well with the needs of this child?
Right.
We talk a little bit about open adoption agreements, what that looks like, frequency of visits, sibling visits, birth family. Maybe they have a visiting resource or other people who are important to them that they want to maintain a connection with.
Right.
And I share that information with the families and let them know, take some time, think this over, talk it through. And if they decide, yes, I'd really like to learn more about this child, then I'll say to them, I'll connect your social worker with the child, submit your home study. And then it's really up to the child social worker to review the home study and determine whether or not this is a possibility and can be explored further. So while I don't have any say in the actual matching process, I can make recommendations and really be the first person that the families talk to about specific kids that they might be interested in.
And so there's a couple of things that you said in there that I think are important to point out. Number one, you talked about inquiries.
Yes.
So when we're talking about inquiries, we're talking about the stage where parents are beyond their home study completion.
Yes.
Right? Because we're now, matching happens at that point, even though you may attend an event before then, or you may find children who you potentially could be matched with before then. Until that home study's done.
Yeah, there's not much we can do to really help.
Right?
We can, if a family says, I saw a kiddo at an event, or maybe met them, I'm interested in finding out more information, I can document that and let them know, we've taken note of your interests. Please follow up with me once you are licensed. But really we're only sharing that information with families who are licensed and their home studies completed and approved.
Right, because technically the matching process is happening at that point.
Yes.
You talked about inquiries. So inquiries can come from a couple of different sources. Traditionally, it would have been, so the website has been a place where legally freed children have always been presented. And for listeners who may, this may be one of your first podcasts, children are either legally freed for adoption or non-legally freed, and how they are available, how their information is available to be viewed is based upon that designation, right? So, but today, home studied families also can look at non-legally freed children on the website. So website is one way.
Yes.
They can call us, 617-964-6273, right?
Right.
And social media is another channel. The podcast is another way that people are learning about all of this. So inquiries really can come from a variety of different sources. Let's talk about a web inquiry. If somebody makes a web inquiry, so let me play the role of parent,
okay.
Prospective adoptive parent. I may have done that once, twice, or 7 times already, or more. So I'm on the website and I see little Johnny. And I read Johnny's bio. As you said, it's really about strength-based matching, which means that children have specific needs, and then we look for families that have the strengths to fill that. But I read the bio and I think, you know what? I think Johnny would be a great match for my family. So I click the inquiry button. I fill out the form, and it goes into cyberspace. What happens next?
Well, it comes right to my email if it's a child in the southern region.
Yeah, let's say that Johnny's from the southern region.
Yep. And what I do is I first make sure, I'll look in the family's record, because all of the families that inquire with us have a record and an account that they log into in order to see all, if it's legal risk children especially, they need to be logged in. I verify in their account that they're licensed. And once I do that, and the verification process is easy. We usually have the family's home study, or
have it on file,
or we
recorded.
Verified it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we might have just, the social worker gave us the okay. And then at that point, I respond back and share the information, kind of how I mentioned before, just about their needs, and start that conversation.
And I can tell you there's a huge benefit. As a matter of fact, I think you and I actually worked together during our last placement process.
Probably.
Before I worked with her, well, probably when my teenage son was being adopted. I think you and I worked together before I actually worked for Mayor. And I can tell our listeners that there is a huge benefit to having someone from Mayor also working with you. You talked about how people get matched. And so I think that's the piece I'm really talking about here. I used to explain it when I was teaching MAP class, is you can be proactive or reactive.
Yes.
And so on the reactive side, the natural process is once your home study is done, your social worker from your Adoption Development Licensing Unit, ADLU, right, in your region, knows who you are. They've gone through the home study process. They know what your strengths are, and they're actively looking to match you with the child. So that's waiting for someone to do that. On the proactive side, most proactive is you show up at all the Mayor events, you're on our website, you're making calls, you're inquiring on your own behalf. You can be anywhere in between, but I will say this. 4 or 5 of my 7 kids were Mayor connections. Mm-hmm. Having someone to ask questions of while I was waiting was so invaluable. And that's, a piece of your job.
Right. And that's really what we're here for. We know that our social workers are very busy. They have a lot going on their plates every single day. And if we can just help really explore potential matches and say to the social workers, hey, I talked to this great family that really has some great strengths and could really be a potential fit for this kiddo, I find that must be very valuable to families, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, and you're helping families and you're helping social workers, right? There's appreciation coming from both sides. So, okay. Anything we missed? I mean, we're trying to be brief in these episodes and kind of, get all the information, and anything else that comes to mind?
Well, I think that something that can be confusing sometimes to families is the selection process. So even though, we do talk about potential matches at Mayor, we don't make any decisions. So I do let families know, if you're interested in having a follow-up conversation, maybe a couple weeks down the line, don't hesitate to reach out. That's really what we're here for, to be supportive of our families and our social workers.
That's great.
And the children.
Yeah, and I think that's another episode, what happens after the match is made.
Right.
And we can certainly do that. Well, great. Well, I think those are all the basics of the matching process. Thank you, Rebecca, for co-hosting today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that we now get to work together in this new way.
Yes.
And you know how much I appreciate you. So I look forward to doing this with you again.
I do too. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you as well to all of our listeners. For more information about anything that we've covered on today's show, please visit our website at mareinc.org. We appreciate your investment in our show. And just a reminder, if you like us, one of the best things you can do to help keep us going with the work is to listen and rate us on your platform of choice. Oh, and you know what? Share it with others who would benefit from the content. And if you have a show topic for either the main podcast or these shorter episodes, please email me at joes@mareinc.org. I'd love to hear from you. This is Joe Sandagato for Mayor, wishing you a wonderful day, and thanks for listening.